Greetings, horror fans. My name is Drew Fortune, here with Cranked Up TV. I'm an author, screenwriter, and a journalist, and I am here with John Theissen Jr., who is the director, the writer, the producer, the DP
Yeah.
of the new extreme horror film Ketchup on Waffles. Also the caterer, I think, right?
Yeah, the caterer too. Yeah. Had to make
Yeah.
sure that everybody was fed. Composer, everything, pretty much everything.
Composer?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
man. Well, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Drew? It's great to finally talk to you. I know we've been talking about this film for some time here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember I got an early copy from you before Cranked Up TV, before you had any kind of distro, just
Yeah.
because it just seems so. I mean, I'm a big admirer of extreme
Hmm.
horror and especially like extreme haunted houses. I once did Blackout, which is always the number two behind, or the number two behind McCamey Manor, which was
Okay.
like obviously uh, basically
Insane.
just a torture show. Yeah. So yes, I'm always seeking out, yeah, the extreme. But when it comes to the extreme, if there's no heart to it, if there's no soul to it, it's
Mhm.
just a geek show, and I lose interest, and it
Yeah.
falls by the wayside. What struck me about Ketchup on Waffles was there was a lot of intelligence behind it, and obviously that's due to you and your fantastic cast. Um,
Thanks.
so I wanted to open with a question I had. It's an opening text at the beginning, and forgive me if I'm misquoting it, but the movie is based on a dishonest telling of a true story. Is
Mhm.
that is that
Yeah.
correct, or is it sort of a Coen Brothers?
Yeah, it's sort of the Coen Brothers way, where it's like, it's not really taking from any specific event. I think a lot of people draw comparison to the Long Island diner robbery that happened in 1982,
Mm,
um, where a bunch of masked men went in there and held up the diner and, like, force the customers and staff to do things. It's not based on just that. Like, yeah, there was a little bit of that I took from, but it's more so multiple, like, events, mass casualty events, and anything in this sort of nature that has involved misguided youth over the years.
yeah, and thrill killers and
Yeah.
things like that.
Hmm.
Which always that's always the scariest to me, that we're doing this for our own amusement.
Yeah.
Um, that's the psychological angle that really freaks me out, especially in your film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, they don't really, like, they don't really have a rhyme or reason to the violence and, like, doing specific acts of violence in this film. It's just kind of, what they think is the most entertaining to them.
Right.
And they're kind of just, like the actors improving their lines, these characters are improving their kills. And they're improving how they interact with the customers and the staff that they kill in this movie. Um, they're essentially, they want to bully. They want to bully
Mhm.
and they want to torment, and that's like where they get their kicks off. And yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that is far more scarier than anything. And, like, we look at, like, horror movies where, like, the villain has, like, such a deep, deep motivation or motive or whatever, and it doesn't hit as hard as it does when the characters are just doing it just for their own entertainment and their own fun. Yeah.
Sure. It reminded me of the home invasion scene in Henry,
Okay.
Portrait of
Yeah.
a Serial
Yeah.
Killer, which is obviously
Yeah.
hands down the most disturbing part of that movie.
Yeah.
I think for anyone who's seen it. Tell us about the evolution of the film and the script itself. Did the story just sort of come out in one fell swoop, or was it a piecemeal process of putting it all together?
So it's interesting. I really started with the characters. Like, when I was putting together the story, I really started with the characters. Who are the characters and what do they look like?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I played with the idea of, like, that they would have different masks, and, like, those masks, like, I was thinking, like, animal masks, but how many times have animal masks been done before? You
Yeah.
know? And there's something just so terrifying and minimalist about the ski masks and just the simplicity of it, and it feels youthful, it feels amateur. And so
Hmm.
that is where, the whole misguided youth comes from, is like, okay, like these guys in their ski masks, who are they in these ski masks? They're misguided youth. And from
And
there, I'm like,
incels,
yeah,
incels probably, right?
they're incels, and that's where it kind of pieced off from that. And just like the world and like everything that like has happened over the past like 20 to 30 years with mass casualty events, and like the rise of like toxic personalities online influencing our youth. And I think that fit that kind of looks so well. And so from there, I'm like, okay, this is where we take off. And then, like I said, like I took from different like events throughout history and stuff, like mass casualty events. Um, I think the diner, that's where the Long Island diner, the 1982 robbery, that's where the location came from. Um,
Mhm.
and then just from there, I started putting the screenplay together, and it was only 30 pages. So,
Right.
consider like, a page equals like a minute of a runtime. So, that's like 30-minute runtime pretty much. But
Yeah.
I think when we're there on set and we're filming, I was like, no, this has to be like, these guys are super manic. And we were just coming up with like ideas on set. Like, and so like the film was constantly evolving to the point where we wrapped. And even to like editing and how I like edited the film. Like real there was no like real structure to anything. It was just us kind of like experimenting and see what we could do, with also kind of, getting from point A to point B in that time, and see
Yeah.
what works best, and that was important, was giving my actors kind of like that chaotic freedom, as long as they got from point A to point B. So yeah.
Did you have to rein in some of I'm thinking of the white who's the leader of the gang.
Mhm.
Did you have to rein in any of his more volatile moments? Like, oh man, that's just a little too aggressive, or anything
Well,
like that?
not really, not really, but
Hmm.
there were moments where I was on set, and like there was a moment where Ian was he was like, going off, and he was rambling as the white, and like I I didn't want to stop, um but I just naturally just said cut, because I was so unsettled myself of just the stuff
Nice.
that he was saying. And so
Yeah.
I'm filming it, and I'm so uncomfortable, and I'm holding the camera, and I'm so uncomfortable, and he's just saying the worst and worst shit, and that could come to his head. And I was like, cut. And everybody kind of looked at me, and they're like, what? And I was like, I don't know why I said that. I just,
Yeah.
I have no idea why I said that.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of just like, limiting him, it wasn't ever the case. It was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna kind of ninja around. The way I filmed it, I was like, okay, I want to kind of be like the fourth mask in a way,
Right.
and
Hmm.
kind of move around you guys and get this like, almost like these improv like moments, almost like a theater kind of play. Like, because this if you look at the location of the diner, it's very like open, and it almost feels like it's staged in itself. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not gonna limit these guys of how they're moving or anything. I'm just gonna
And the
film them.
booths feel like a theater seating areas. Like
Yeah.
you can kind of maneuver,
Yeah,
yeah, back and
exactly,
through.
exactly.
Yeah.
So my plan was just to ninja around these guys. Um, and yeah, no, there was no like, there wasn't any like point where I'm like, Ian, you can't say that, or Ian, you can't do that. I was
Yeah.
just like, fucking go for it, man.
You pretty much knew you were going for an unrated from the get go, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, I wasn't like
Mhm.
thinking like, oh, like for an R, or like, an NC-17. I was just seeing like what we could do. Um, One thing that was kind of like important to me was that, the violence wasn't so in your face, like gore wasn't over the top, like gory or anything like that.
Right.
Because I wasn't like looking for like some like real like gore fest or anything like that. Like I wasn't looking for like an over the top bloody movie or anything. I think
I
like
mean, there were no squibs used for any of the shootings, right?
no. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have
Yeah,
any
I
of that.
didn't think so.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's funny about that is like my makeup artist Danny, we didn't get blood capsules either because we
Mm,
didn't really have like that moment. So there was one moment where we needed blood capsules, and so like being in the diner, we have those like little milk cartons. So
yeah,
Danny would extract the milk out of those cartons and fill them up with blood, and we would just hold them up to our like faces or something, or like, hold them like up to
right.
like the wounds and just squeeze them in our hands. And so like that was like the most like kind of that we did with like actual like blood splashes or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it makes it stronger in that regard that
Yeah.
you didn't just go grand guignol or however you pronounce that.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't want to lose like the seriousness of it, like if it was like over the top bloody or anything like that. Yeah.
so, I mean, the cast, you sort of have your the two good characters who are essentially on a first date who get
Yeah.
harassed in the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, and I want to talk about them, but really, I'm curious how it's Ian O'Boyle
Yeah.
as, right? Yeah. How did he? Have you been working with him for on previous shorts or anything?
No. So we met at a film festival. I had a horror movie at a film festival, and it was winning quite a lot. And he was at that film festival, and I won one award, and I see him kind of inching towards me. And he's like this tall kind of like lankier kid at this point. And so I'm like, all right, this guy's trying to talk to me. I'm not like a sociable guy, like like I like I'm at events and I don't want to talk pretty much to
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, like
All right.
as you could see, like I'm scared of crowds, I'm scared of like moments, and I kind of convey that in ketchup. But anyway,
You
so
seem pretty gregarious here. I don't know. We're
yeah.
having a good time, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. So so yeah, so I was standing, at this film festival, and then in my film won another award, and I saw him inching closer to me, and now he's like standing shoulder to shoulder to me, and I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, I'm gonna like, I was like, hey man, how you doing? And he was like, the sweetest guy. He was like talking to me, and he said that he really wanted to do a horror movie. Months pass. I'm writing Ketchup, and finally I finished a screenplay for Ketchup, and I just posted on my Instagram like now casting, which is like the picture of
Hmm.
the title page of the screenplay. And he hit me up, and from there he auditioned, and we had a lot of auditions for the White, and
Hmm.
it was really interesting, like the seeing people's different takes on it. For a while I was just thinking I was just going to play the White. Like I was just like I had that headspace where I'm like, okay, I'm going to play the White because I doubt anybody else would want to play this crazy motherfucker, so I'll just do it.
Right.
But then I was just like, okay, no, I'm a one man show here. It's too much to take on. Somebody else has to play it.
Yeah,
So
man, that would have
Ian,
been exhausting if
yeah,
you were the white is on top of everything.
yeah. I mean, it was exhausting enough. So anyway, so Ian, Ian sends me an audition, and it's a really great audition. Really great. And then like a couple weeks pass, I'm still not like totally set on who I'm gonna get. And then Ian sent me a short film. Like it was like the white sauce is red. All of a sudden I see an email from Ian O'Boyle that says the white sauce is red. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And so I click on this like
Demo
link.
or
What's,
what?
what's that?
Was it like a cooking demo or what?
It was so what it was Ian Ian essentially cooked like a meal, like an Italian meal, as his character, the White. And that's what the short film was. And it was like it was cut very chaotically. It was like, him like kind of being very focused, but then like also you see like some insanity in his eyes. And then he caps it off by grabbing a whole thing of marinara sauce and just chugging it. Like chugs
Wow.
a whole thing of marinara sauce. So I was like, all
Oh,
right,
boy.
yeah, I was like, I think this is
Yeah.
clearly the guy, the just the
Nice.
willingness to go to those extremes. Yeah.
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 Very cool. And
Hmm.
this isn't a spoiler, but one thing he did, and I talked to you about this just kind of when we were bullshitting a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
He added a facial tick that is so
Yeah.
perfect for what that character. It's like he's just on the craziest whacked out speed you can imagine, and
Yeah.
it reminded me a lot of Heath Ledger in the Joker. it's almost like he's tripping on his own words. He has so much to
Mhm.
say, but he doesn't I really know how to articulate it really until the end. Which and
Yeah.
you mentioned that was he brought that to you as an idea.
Yeah. So he kind of came up with that idea from Heath Ledger. He was very inspired by Heath Ledger and like
Yeah,
his process and everything. Like he had his own journal, like Heath Ledger had his own journal for the character, and like it's like pretty much a diary. It's like, just like probably like 30 to 40 pages of just the sickest shit. Maybe more. Yeah.
yeah,
And like Heath Ledger's Joker diary. And yeah, that was one of the things, like that jaw, like, kind of movement he has was like very reminiscent to like the lip smacking that Joker has in Dark
right.
Knight. But yeah, no, he was always like bringing up like different ideas to me. There was, like I said, like I would just be like, go for it. There was a couple ideas beforehand. I was like, you're fucking crazy, dude. Like that he would hit me up with. But yeah, no, he was so committed to that role. Like there was like months and months where I'm like, okay, like am I talking to Ian right now or the White?
Man, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
really
it's
is
yeah,
wild.
I mean it's a damn good performance, man. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't respect it so
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and I assume real diners weren't lining up for you to make this crazy film.
No.
Um, but yeah, tell me about how you found your location.
Yeah, so it's funny. So this was the first location that I spoke to, and this was a diner that I've been going to for years. It's an active diner, like it's a real active diner.
Mm,
And it's a location that I've been going to for like years and years and years. Like my dad and I would go here before school in the morning to get like pancakes or whatever. And so I met with the owner and I was like, "Hey, listen, Jerry, like I want to shoot a movie here. I think it would be a great location. Just like the layout of the diner is like perfect for this
yeah,
location. And because there's so many diners where it's just like goes back and forth rather than like just a big open space. And so like um and it's like just one big room too. Like it's not multiple rooms. So anyway, I speak to Jerry, and Jerry he's kind of cautious about the idea. He's like, yeah, like I know your other stuff is kind of like more extreme. He's like, it's not really that violent because we don't want to bring the energy in there. And I was like, no, it's not that bad. Like it's not terrible, Jerry. And
your reputation preceded you.
yeah, already. Like I had like short films and stuff that I put out online that were like just demented and I had this movie Loving Polly that was like really fucked up and that was on Amazon for a while. That soon has been taken down, but I don't know. We'll probably put that back up there sooner or later. But regardless, getting back to what we were talking about. So he's like, all right, like he's like, I'll get in touch with you within like the next couple weeks. And so I'm like, oh shit, all right, because it's already like August and we have to shoot in September. And I'm like, we're kind of on a crunch time, so I don't think this is going to pan out. So I call up all these other diners and I call up diners that are inactive, like every inactive diner in New York State to try to
Mm,
figure out something. And like, I call up this one diner and I'm like, hey, man, like I think like we could, shoot a film here, like, we'll pay you, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, you'll fucking sue us, you'll fucking sue us. Like, it was the same like response where it's just like, fuck you, or it was just like, no, this isn't happening. So I'm like, oh,
yeah,
shit. Now it's like 1 week out from like, our planned shoot date. And I'm like, I really like cannot delay this anymore. And then Jerry came up to me and he was just like, he's like, listen, you could shoot the place. We need a babysitter that's gonna like, stay with you guys overnight. So I had to pay this like guy to watch the diner to kind of supervise the diner for like a week. And this guy, this guy was not ready for any of the crazy shit like we were
is he
getting
an
to.
extra in, or is he an extra in it?
No. He helped out a lot.
Mm,
Guy Mikey, but yeah, he actually became like a huge help on the set and everything like that. And we have like it's just like a big kind of it's a big set of just like, young adults and everything. And a lot of them are like 18 to like 20. So it's like just chaos and trying
yeah,
to like control these people and like half of them never acted like in their lives before like
Were you
Like,
guys partying on set at all?
um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
but no, yeah, no. We would get shit done. You know, I had to get the guys that like I grew up with, like out of like uh like out of the shoot dates, like quick. Like I was like, all right, like you guys are only here for like the first night, so
Mhm.
like just you guys can't be staying like these extra nights because I need to get your like fucking dipshit asses out of here. Um, because these are like guys that I like grew up with and like were like deadbeats with me in like high school or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the Steiner was great, and we only had like a limited time to shoot there because it was an active diner. So we would get there 11 at night and then have to wrap at 5, and then from 5 to 5:30 we had to clean up everything, wipe the blood off, and
Yeah.
get the blood out of stuff, and by 6 o'clock they had to be open and go through their day. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man.
yeah,
That's yeah, that's it's kind of like Kevin Smith with Clerks. It's like you got to go right to work essentially after shooting
exactly.
your night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, this I'm curious about this too. What kind of a kid were you like in high school? I mean, you're 26 now, so this isn't that far removed. Uh, I mean, uh, were you an outcast? Were you because you were so deep into horror? I mean, was that a big part of your outward personality?
No, I was kind of like friends, like I would kind of like be friends with everybody. I was a dipshit. I was like a troublemaker.
Mm,
I went to summer school like every year throughout high school.
yeah.
I was very much a deadbeat. Like I've had like, teachers tell my parents like that I just didn't do anything and I would sit in class and just like draw or like, just daze out and do whatever. I was actually fortunate to have cast Rob Rappa who played the Blue. The
Mm,
blue, the blue uh is like such like a kind of like sidekick to the white, and like they're both like so
yeah.
chaotic with each other. And Rob and me were very much like that. Like we were both like kind of troublemakers throughout high school.
Pushing
And
each other's buttons and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Like we would just fuck around and like, get kicked out of class and like, do stuff like that. And so like when he wanted to audition, I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Just, you got to play yourself, like, pretty much. Like, you got to, essentially not like a far less, far less evil version of yourself, but like, um, not that Rob is evil at all, but, but like, it was just like that dynamic of like that Rob and I had where I was like, okay, just like, have that troublemaker dynamic with Ian as the white. So yeah, I mean that was really cool. But yeah, no, I was an outcast for like a few years, and then like I would just kind of find my footing and just be like a troublemaker. And I kind of like throughout like my years in school, like I would kind of just migrate from group to group to the point where in high school, like I was just like in part of everything. And
Yeah.
I never wanted to go to parties and stuff because I had like, like I said, like I had a really big fear of like, being in like crowds and stuff like that.
Mm,
So I, I would get like invited to stuff or something like that, and I would be like, no, I can't do it. But yeah, no, I was different. I was very different. I had a teacher once tell my dad that like, some kids cross the line and John completely clears the line. Like she's like she's like the only way to describe this was my English teacher. She was like the only way to describe John is just extreme.
huh.
And yeah, and that's pretty much how it was.
Right.
I think everybody kind of knew me as like going to like extremes and doing like crazy shit or like, vandalizing something in the school or like,
Mm,
being that kid. But the only class like I was really focused in and dead set on was my film class, and like that's it. Like that's the only class I actually cared about being in.
yeah.
Um, and
I suppose they have some program, or at least to get
yeah.
you that inspired.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because I was pretty set on just like joining up with like the Marines or something out of high school.
Mm,
And I was big into film. I was a big cinephile growing up, but like when I when I took that film class, I was just like, okay, this is like an actual possibility to like be a career. Like I never saw it as that. Like I would make movies and stuff with friends, of course, but that was the first time where I actually saw it as a possibility. As it's like, okay, this is something I could do.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so,
Um, and you've spoken about being, I guess, nervous is the right. I don't know if that's the right word in crowds, or at least
Mhm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, as a young filmmaker, especially with ketchup on waffles, did you feel immediately confident your first day, like your first shot, or are you just shitting your pants and just being like, let's just hope this works out?
Well, so it's kind of a complicated answer. Because when I'm there, when I'm filming and like, when I'm being a director, I'm in my element. Like I'm there and I'm like a completely different person. Like I kind of just go into my zone pretty much. Um and so when I when I would get home at the end of every night at the diner, I would just kind of like let loose and just kind of crawl into a ball because I was doing this all by myself, like a lot of points. Like I was the only guy really behind the camera. I had a couple like friends who were production assistants. Um, and I had a buddy who like came on to bring on the other extras and stuff, which was really cool. And I credit him as my associate producer, but it was really just me like doing the direction and like, shooting it. So when I would get home, every morning I would just kind of like fall into my bed and curl up into a ball and just like scream into my pillow. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, because and like I feel like when I work on other films now as either if I'm a director or I'm a producer, like I kind of found my footing and like, discovered myself and like I work better in crowds and stuff like that, but
Nice.
that's something that like I really kept hidden for a long time, and I feel like ketchup was part of me kind of expressing that fear in a lot of ways. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so I mean, and it
It's
like
therapeutic in the end.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I
How
feel
about
like
that?
the darker kind of, expressing the darkness and like depression is so therapeutic, and that's why I kind of like love horror too in a way
Yeah.
because it's so expressive. It's such an expressive genre, and like even to go to the extremes is like it shows like a sense of honesty too. So, yeah.
Sure. That brings me to my next question. Tell us about your influences. For ketchup, I assume you have to be a big Clockwork Orange fan, given the thrill killers, the three thrill
Yeah.
killers. Yeah, even in the beginning, there was an homage to
Mhm.
a homeless guy under a bridge who they
Yep.
assault. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead. I'm curious about your
Yeah,
influences.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Clockwork Orange, it's funny that you say that. I'm looking at my Clockwork Orange poster right now. Yeah, Clockwork Orange was like a huge influence for me, especially that first act.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that homeless guy is actually me. That's one of the
Oh,
characters that I play. Yeah, no, I'm surprised that nobody really clocked that to be me. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
yeah. But yeah, so like like Clockwork Orange was big. I would say like Gaspar Noé, Harmony Korine,
Mhm.
Michael Haneke, of course. I'm not really subtle with my homages, and
Yeah.
I feel like this whole movie is kind of like a love letter to like something like French extremity films or particularly European kind of extreme films. But yeah, I think like Harmony Korine and like I watched something like Gummo or I'll watch like something like Irreversible, and you could see like the clear parallels from like those movies into this movie.
Sure.
Um, I think I think also I wanted to really be distinctive as my own in a lot of ways, like of just how I handle the camera and just being overwhelming with the camera, like pushing in and out of focus at a lot of points and just constantly trying to overwhelm the audience.
Is
But
that
yeah.
I'm not a technical guy, but how did you get that early DV look? What did you shoot on?
Oh, the what? The
Was that
found footage look?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's funny because a lot of people have been asking me, they're like, "Oh, what did you use? Like, did you use like a VHS camera or something like that?" And that's not the case. We actually had this is the camera that the Blue used, and we had this camera, and it's like an operational camera, At least it was an operational camera, and it
What
broke.
it broke
Yeah,
in.
it broke.
Uh,
It broke in just the heat of things. So I was like, all right, this is unusable. And it also like wasn't as unsettling as I wanted it to be.
mm,
So there's an app on the iPhone. It's like this camcorder app, and we used that, and that gave it like, the unsettling kind of vibe that I was going for.
yeah.
Yeah, so we just shot all that found footage stuff on an iPhone through an app, which is
No, that's
yeah, yeah,
nice,
yeah. Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Like there's a lot of people who are really shocked that that found footage stuff is actually an iPhone footage.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah.
Look, really, really, really convincing.
Yeah.
Um, so let's move on to distribution and the
Mhm.
3 years that it took to get this out
Yeah.
to the world via Cranked Up TV. I mean, you went through some hell trying to find distributors, and I assume you reached out to, I mean, most of the indie horror distro places.
Yeah.
What was a lot of, I don't know, what was the consensus of their rejections or their passing, essentially?
So, we were hitting up people left and right, and distributors left and right, and a lot of them were like, we don't think we could take this on. It's too like bold, it's too this, it's too that. Um
I mean,
it's
there's no graphic rape. There's
no,
no
no.
nothing's graphic, but
Mhm.
it's just the tone of it. It was kind of
Yeah.
like when National Killers came out. Like I
Yeah.
think the MPAA just said the energy is too kinetic, or it's just too frenetic, basically.
Yeah, it's that, and also a lot of people didn't want to tap into the subject matter of, I think, mass shootings, and and a lot of
Yep.
people would say, like a lot of these distributors would say, this isn't subject matter we want to tackle right now, and
Hmm.
especially with like misguided youth, and stuff like that. Like they think like, a lot of people were saying that it's just not the right time to release this film, which I think is completely bullshit.
I mean,
Yeah,
what's the right time? 2 years from
yeah,
now, and
and
things are
yeah,
rosy and perfect.
exactly, exactly. It's something that kind of, with the even with that like final monologue, like it really calls for like something to be done, and it calls for actions to be taken.
Yeah.
So I was like, why wouldn't you put this out, but there was a lot of people that would just say it's just chaos and nothing more,
Mm.
which I could see that, like, they would say like it's either too bare bones, where it's just, this couple goes to this diner, masked men go in there and just terrorize the diner over like 3 hours. And yeah, it is simple, but I feel like that's where it makes it the most effective, is just the simplicity of the plot itself. Where these guys just go into a diner and they just, you know, do the worst shit that they could do within the time period. And there's a lot of like, and like you said, like it's not like there's no like essay, there's no any of that stuff, and there's a lot of jump cuts, and like there's points like where you see like the character staring at a body, and like you see the body being like dragged away, and then it
Hmm.
jump cuts to the next scene, and like that's never like brought up again. So it's something that like I wanted to leave a lot up to the imagination, and I thought like that would be more, digestible to distributors, rather than like, me putting out something that's like very extreme and like very gory and very in your face kind of like graphic. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. Yeah, I think it was just more so the subject matter and
Right.
things like that.
Because I mean, yeah, I mean, look at Terrifier 3. I mean, even
Mhm.
as a gorehound like myself, I mean that pushed me over my limit to the
Right.
point where I was just spent.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like what's sexy now.
Yeah. I
Man,
I
that's
I
wild.
love that. Like, like I have to say, like I love Terrifier 3. I that was like one of my favorite movies from that year that it came out.
Mhm.
And I remember like literally falling off my seat because I was at the edge of my seat
Yeah,
throughout the third act. But yeah, like,
the
I
fucking rat, man, the rat. Oh
oh
god.
yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, even like the glass scene with her with the glass shard. Like,
Yep.
but yeah, like, as much as I love that, like it was just important that it doesn't like go too that extremes. So the subject matter is just never lost.
Yeah.
In a sense. But yeah. Like down the line, like hell yeah, I want to go all crazy with that shit. You know,
Nice.
like I would go, yeah, I would go to the extremes. Because I know a lot of people were like, there's people that were kind of like expecting that.
Hmm.
There was expecting just kind of like that graphic brutality in this movie, and that's just not what that really is, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
That's yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
And I think what really sold me on it in the end, and you have to really push through to the very end when
Mhm.
there is this monologue that you wrote and it's delivered verbatim
Mhm.
by the White. That I wasn't kidding when I told you. I'm like, dude, QT would appreciate this because it reminded me so much of Jules's monologue to Ringo at the end of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
yours is about disturbing the comfort, and that's
Mhm.
essentially what White and his gang are doing. They want to disturb the comfort of normal society. Tell me a little bit more about that theme and how you came to that in to be the theme of that monologue.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, like I think we have these moments throughout history where things have happened and our comforts have been disturbed. Like our everyday comforts have been disturbed. Like, you know, of course, something in a larger scale is like 9/11.
Mm,
You take like something like 9/11 and you know, people are afraid to go on passenger planes more so than how they were. And we're more afraid of, you know, being in like larger crowds and like we're more alert and you know something that was like usually a comfort to us is now disturbed. Even like you look at like school shootings, like parents feel comfortable bringing their kids to school, and
mm-hmm.
now there's a rise of school shootings like you could see like Columbine and Parkland and stuff like that, and the comforts are disturbed. I remember I was in high school when like you know there was Parkland, the Pulse nightclub shooting, the Las Vegas shooting, and I remember being in high school and being like scared. You know, I remember I was like scared that like a kid could come in with an assault rifle and you know commit a terrible act.
I
Um,
mean, I don't want to cut you off, but real quick. So I'm 44, and Columbine happened my junior year of high
yeah,
school. But it was so new, we weren't necessarily scared. But I
right.
can't imagine, like, I mean, being your age or even, really early Gen Z,
Yeah.
uh, feeling safe anywhere anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Especially in, like large institutions like colleges or high schools. Yeah.
right. I mean, like this shit has just happened like so frequent over the years where it's like, you know, it feels more and more like a real possibility that something could happen. And so that's where it kind of comes from. And, you know, the White says something in that monologue. He says, you know, I'll just continue to flood the next tunnel. You know,
Yeah.
he talks about flooding the tunnels, like an image that would always come to mind when I was writing that or you know looking back at the film watching the film is like you know being in like the Lincoln Tunnel going to like Jersey and you know you're underwater pretty much and like that tunnel kind of collapsing and flooding and so
Mm,
that's something that I always kind of vision and when I was writing the film I was kind of thinking about how you know nervous I would be in the Lincoln Tunnel or like on a bridge or
didn't,
maybe like a bridge is collapsing or like you know the
right.
Lincoln Tunnel is flooding like I
Didn't
was
they make
thinking
that
that
shitty Sylvester Stallone movie Daylight about that situation?
maybe that sounds
Anyway,
that sounds great if that yeah I gotta check that out because that
check it
sounds
out,
great
everyone at home.
yeah
Daylight, 1988, I think. Anyway, sorry. Go
nice
ahead.
yeah but yeah I mean like that's kind of like where it comes from and you know like it's a diner it's
Yeah,
the film takes place in a diner like people
bastion of like
yeah
comfort,
yeah
and yeah,
Yeah, it's
homes.
such a an American like institution where
Right.
like we go to the diner and we expect to enjoy our meal and stuff like that. And like these kids like they're college kids in like this college town and they go to the diner just one night and you know they're all like drunk or they just like we're out drinking. It's late at night. Who could expect that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where like, you know, that kind of um comfort being disturbed comes from. There's a quote, like I saw a quote online once, um, great art like comforts disturbs or something like that. And that's
Mm,
where, that's where I kind of got that line from, but just the idea of, bringing this story to that line is from that. Yeah.
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 Cool. So I guess I was curious about this too because as a kid I grew up on Tales from the Crypt, and literally every movie that I involved my friends with
Mhm.
was just a short horror, like 5 minute thing.
Mhm.
Like as dark as I could think of. And I
Right.
remember my dad saying one time, because I would use our family big bulky VHS camera. He would say, "When are you going to do a nice romantic comedy?" And it was like, yeah, you didn't see this in me from an early age. I'm a fucking horror junkie from
Yeah.
birth almost. Like, my earliest memory is The Shining, watching with that with my mom when there was a
Right, right.
blizzard. Um, so I'm curious, especially with this project or the Punishment Tapes short film that you are in the process of, well, finishing, I guess,
Mhm.
at this stage. Have your parents ever kind of taken you aside and said, "What's going on here, man? Do we need to have a talk or anything like that?"
Well, I was pretty normal, I was like when I
Mhm.
first started, I was making pretty great, like, like dramatic stuff and, coming of age stories. Like you could probably find on YouTube like my high school movie or something like that I made, and it's very wholesome. Like it's very like, it's
Oh,
obviously
interesting. Okay.
it's obviously a high school movie. Um, but like, I think once I got out of high school, um, I was like, you know what? Like, I feel kind of lost. I feel kind of like, dark with my like darker and kind of lost. Like, I didn't go to college.
Mhm.
I went straight to the film industry and I did like, odd jobs here and there. And I would like, do these jobs and like be more grounded to reality and have more of like, being like lost in your 20s, like be more cynical to like the world and like how I viewed the world, and so like I think I just became kind of more darker over the years, but like my parents would kind of see these things and see me kind of like like I would tell them that I'm writing this or that, and they would be like, what the fuck happened to you, man? And like, so it was that, like,
Yeah.
but I think I kind of like showed my parents were at the Chinese what do you call it, the Man's Chinese Theater, TCL Chinese Theater
Mhm.
screening in LA that we had back in 2025. And my dad saw the film prior and he thought it was great, but then like rewatching it with my mom after the film, like, and that was a big screening. It was part of this film festival. People were like walking out cursing at the screen,
Really?
freaking out. Yeah, my parents were there and they were like, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I
Gotta
think,
love the walkouts.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I had my friends there too. And like, people were like, you know, just having like panic attacks. Like I had a buddy who was at that screening and he told me like, oh, his friend had a panic attack in the lobby or something like that. And like it was like too overwhelming. Yeah, which was great. Like, that's
Oh
great to
yeah.
hear. Yeah. And it was
Sure.
great to see all these people pissed off leaving the theater too. But I think my dad kind of like woke up to how extreme the film was at that point, because when he first watched the film, he was like laughing like Max Cady in Cape Fear in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Um,
Big cigar. Just
yeah, he's like, but 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 my mom was like mortified watching
Oh
it.
God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like when we left the theater, my dad was just like, "Oh man," he's like, that movie belongs in an asylum." Like that. It's crazy. But yeah, no, I mean, they're super supportive. Like
That's
I'm
great.
definitely grateful to have like, good parents and stuff. Like especially
Good.
like being a filmmaker and an artist, that's really hard to have, kind of like that support and kind of like explain to them that like why I don't have a lot of money right now is because I'm funding this, or like, and they, it's great. They're great people, but yeah, no, they 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 were kind of like, damn, what the hell happened? The person who who kind of gave me shit the most was Rob, who plays the Blue, and
Mm.
Rob, he kind of he said something funny. He was kind of busting my chops, but like, we're on set of Ketchup and Waffles and we just filmed something very disturbing. And he just turns to me, he goes, "When are you going to make a real movie?"
Wow.
As a joke,
Yeah,
just
right.
busting my
Yeah,
chops. But yeah, yeah,
that's
no, I
funny.
mean, like, listen, if I get a good script, like a good romantic comedy script, sure. Like,
Yeah.
it really depends on like the script, but I can't see myself doing one right now.
Okay.
It has to have something crazy
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it.
All right.
But yeah.
So I guess that's my last question. What's next? I mean, you talked about wanting to do the big Terrifier 3 times 10, maybe, in terms of gore. I don't know. Well, just any kind of current projects you want to promote.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Punishment tapes. That's like, it's kind of like an extended short film that comes out later this year. You
Mhm.
recently saw it.
It's
It,
great.
yeah, yeah.
It's a fun companion. Fun isn't the right word, but it's a good companion piece.
Yeah. It's something that I would say is very much so, like you said, like it's a companion piece. It's kind of like a response to the criticism and just trying to get Ketchup distributed, which I think is which I think will really work well with Ketchup in the long run. But I have this one script that I've been writing for the past like few years now. It's a really big story. It's called Double Dog Dare. It is about a ex Black Ops operative who gets revenge on a group of teenagers who, when they were 11, murdered his wife and children. Um,
Mm.
and so he goes and, kills all those kids one by one in really awful, terrible, ruthless kind of ways. It would be my dream to get that film made. And I think it would be also the most fucked up film released in the past 10 years, definitely.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
almost sounds like Commando in a way.
I,
Well,
the
I
way
don't know.
the way I
Go ahead.
describe this character is Jason Voorhees meets Rambo.
Okay. Nice.
But he is like, he is insane. I did a little short film, like that acted as a pitch. It got kind of like a mixed reception, so I changed it to be more of like this really brutal, ultra violent film. And I think getting that made would be a dream come true, and I think a lot of people would love that. And if you
Yeah.
are disappointed with the lack of gore and ketchup, then you are gonna love what we have for Double Dog Dare.
Right.
But yeah, keep an eye out for any news with that. Keep an eye out for the Punishment tapes. The Punishment tapes is definitely a brutal one too. It's a very gory film. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I have a few other screenplays, but that will be for another day. But yeah, just keep an eye out for the Punishment tapes right now. Yeah.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
hey, John, thank you so much for sharing all this with
Yeah,
us. And
thank you, Drew.
yeah, good luck in the future with everything, man. We're rooting for you.
All right, thanks, Drew. I appreciate it. It was good talking
Cool.
to you, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Good.
Holy fuck! Bro, somebody just shot Gary. He's dead on the floor. That's even worse!